Hello.
yourself. We got Macca on the bottom left for my screen specifically.
Hello, my throat
And,
hurts a little bit. Don't know why.
And we got Spencer, aka Torchwood, aka that guy, pretty cool guy, up on the top right for me.
You can also call me Noah because I have no profile picture. That's not just my real face.
He's weak.
Welcome everybody. It is, what is the title of our thingy? Let's figure that out. That's
Great
also
start.
helpful.
Great start.
I know.
What
It's
is this
the
called
Xenoblade
again?
Network episode 0.
Hurts a little bit. Don't know why.
We're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because that was released. That announcement trailer was unveiled at the Nintendo Direct recently. So we're talking all about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, what we're thinking about it, what's coming up, our hopes, dreams, prayers, thoughts, and everything in between. Talking about Xenoblade 1, X, and 2. So spoilers beware. And let's get into it. What you guys think of the reveal?
No, we don't. I don't know who you people are. Who are you? Like,
what's going on here? I don't know you people.
What's up?
What if I'm allergic to VTubers and I don't know who you are? Like we have to give everyone's anime origin story first.
Okay. All right. You really want my backstory? Because I got it. I'll throw it down.
I hope your VTuber does have like a like actual canon story. That would be pretty great.
I do have lore.
VTube lore.
If you want it.
We have to stick with the order as is tradition. So Alto.
That is fair enough.
Yeah.
Alto.
Quick
What's your
Twitter
lore?
summary. Because
Bro,
let's be honest, no one's actually here for us. So quick Twitter summary about who we are, and then explain how you got into Xeno.
Me explaining you guys?
No, you have to explain yourself, and then we'll go in order.
No, everyone else explain everyone else.
Yes, I have to explain all of
You
you.
can't explain yourself, only explain someone else.
This guy over here is an apple, and that guy over there is a guy with a wife.
Alright, so I'll introduce myself. I am Conductor Alto. I am an analysis channel on YouTube, and these are my friends. I don't really know who they are, actually. They broke into my house, and now I'm being held hostage.
Yo, look, here's the thing. I broke into your house because I have to make sure you eat an apple a day. Otherwise, the doctors, they'll come. Whether you like it or not, right? They're already on their way. I'm here to save you. If I break a couple of laws and legs along the way, then, worth it.
Alright, but in all seriousness, I originally got into Xeno through Chucka Conroy's playthrough of Xenoblade 1, and I've been a fan of the series ever since. I recently beat Xenoblade 2 a few months back, and Mac was very satisfied, because then we could talk about it.
Yay!
Alrighty. So next up is Macca. Introduce yourself. How you doing?
Hello.
How'd you get into Xeno?
Hello. I got into Xeno because I wanted the last story. Okay, so
So you were all the way back. You were all the way back for Project Storm, huh?
yes. So,
Oh my gosh.
in all seriousness, my relationship with Xenoblade dates all the way back to Operation Rainfall. Dates back to that.
That's
What it was is I was a fan of Final Fantasy, and then I found out the creator of Final Fantasy was making a game called Last Story, and it was not being localized, and I was really bummed out about that because it looked awesome. And then I found out about Operation Rainfall, where it was those three games. It was going to be Last Story, Xenoblade, and Pandora's Tower. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then they announced Xenoblade, and that was like huge. And then they randomly, even to this day, I'm not sure why, they just attached the subtitle Chronicles to it, and now it's just stuck on there. And like, I don't know why they put it on there, but they did. And at the time, I was like, I'm gonna buy this to show support that I want these other things. So I bought it, I played it. I got a little ways in. I don't remember how far in I got, and I was like, yo, this is really good. And then I fell off. And then Last Story came out, and I was like, yo, this is really good. And then eventually I went back to Xenoblade, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually the way better game.
I got a question for you real quick, because I don't know if you guys remember this, because everyone always dogs on GameStop for being the place in America where you could buy Xenoblade 1 Did you guys know there was another store you could buy it from that wasn't GameStop?
Really?
The
Yeah.
Nintendo store? What?
You could buy it directly from the Nintendo Store website. It was like one of the few games they sold on there. And if you notice, that's actually why GameStop has no branding on it, because a lot of the big things back then was like, this is the GameStop edition. Here's the Walmart copy of Chibi Robo. Like they were very big into branding, but literally Nintendo was planning on just distributing it themselves, but because of Project Rainfall or whatever, GameStop was like, hey, let's sell it in our stores, and they were like, please. Please buy our copies of this game because historically Nintendo of America thought this weird British game was going to tank hardcore.
Well, that's interesting. I never actually knew that.
Yeah. Outside of that, I've played every not only every Xenoblade game, but I've also played every Xeno game. Period. Xenogears, Xenosaga 1 through 3. Yeah, I'm a massive fan. Even though my channel,
Brave Exvius.
yeah. Even though my channel is SMT themed, honestly, I think Xenoblade is probably my favorite RPG series. It's just easier for me to talk about SMT, I guess. I don't know. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a very good series, that's for sure. That's why we're doing a discussion on it, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Do you
be
guys
if
like
you
have a
didn't like
series
it.
you're known for, but then it's like, oh, but I like this way more. Like, because for me, it's like, even though like I talk about SMT more than like anything, it's like I infinitely love Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Metal Gear Solid way more than SMT or Persona ever.
Yeah, I
Really.
don't know. There's just something really easy to talk about with this series. It's just really easy to talk about. Don't know why.
That's interesting. I'm in a similar situation to you two, I would say. I guess I'll do my introduction. Are you done with yours or?
Yes, yeah, that was basically it.
Go,
Okay.
go.
So I guess I'll throw down myself. Hello everybody. My name is Ringo Ashburn. I am an English VTuber. Who plays variety games over on Twitch, mainly JRPGs, and also specifically the Tales of series. So Tales of Symphonia of Vesperia, Abyss, all that kind of stuff. Right. That is my main game series. I'm going through all of them currently in chronological order. Currently on Tales of Eternia, but similar to you, Macca and Spencer, is that like I am a huge nerd for specifically one series that is my favorite. That is the Tales of series. But I actually do love Xenoblade just almost as much, I would say, as I do Tales. I did not get into it quite as early as Macca, but similar to Commander Alto, I first found out about it because of Chugga Conroy, who I watched a bunch of. But I actually became friends with Macca in college because
Yeah,
we were
Jack
in a
Frost and
class
an apple. A Jack Frost
yeah,
and an apple met at college.
bonded over
Yeah,
Xenoblade.
yeah. You see, we were both studying hydrodynamics.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Some random thing.
Something, and somehow we got into the conversation. I remember I started watching the series from Chugga Conroy, and I was like, it's all right so far, right? And then I somehow got talking to Macca about it, and he was like, bro, I fucking love this game. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll give it a go. And then pretty much a couple episodes into the playthrough, I was like, nope, I gotta get this game. And then I got the game and I played it and I had a great time. And then I've been in love with the series ever since. I played one on the Wii. It was rough for sure. But I had to say, like, my real like clicking to everything was with X. I love Xenoblade Chronicles X, even though a lot of people have some issues with it. I love that. But the whole series, I love to death. Two, I have some problems with, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so that's kind of how that came to be. So, and lastly, we got Spencer up here. What's going on? Give me your lore us,
Yeah,
bro.
so I might be like the fake fan of the group. I'm trying to think if
You've
Alto
never
beat
touched a
me or
Xeno
not.
game.
No,
Oh, no.
what's funny is I was aware of it, but I was like, I was pretty picky with what I played on Wii. Because after I got a PS3, I was very much in the camp of just playing it there. So it was very much one of those things of like, okay, like not like super, like there were a few ones that I got into. Like I did play, um, No More Heroes, and I played a lot of the weirder ones. But the thing about it that was really interesting for me was Xenoblade X was such a late release in the West, even though we got it. Yeah, it was like 2012 because it was like super super late. Like at that point, I legitimately was like I was more looking forward to playing the Wii U than I was playing this game. And it's so funny of like, oh wow, I just realized, wow, yeah, in April it'll be the 10th anniversary of the North American release, which is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
That's
Um,
insane.
that'll be
I
a
didn't
good.
even
You know what?
realize myself.
That'll be a good episode for April. But what's so funny about it for me is it was always something I was really around. I was very aware of, and I had a lot of friends play it and let me kind of know. But what was so funny for me was I didn't get into the series until 2015, and with 2015. I'm trying to match up, see what dates come first. Okay, so X did have a worldwide release. So I started with 3D on the 3DS. And I remember picking that up for literally one reason and one reason only. Like, you would think, oh, it's because you never played it on the Wii and you wanted to play it in a portable way. I literally bought it because I was like, dude, I bet you this is going to be like one of the only good games that is a new 3DS exclusive. And I was 100% right. It's just because that, like, that weird ass horizontal top border for it and everything. But what was so funny about it was like I jumped into it just being like, oh, let's check it out. I'm not really that big into 3DS games, but I wanted to try it out, and it was one of those games that was like it felt like an impossible port, but like thankfully not in a way of like it was super compromised, because like at least personally for me, I like and I've played a little bit of the original Wii version, but I played a lot of the 3DS one, and I was like, this was such a much more superior option to me that like I really really liked it, and it got me really excited for Xenoblade Chronicles X, and and I will never forget one of my like I have a channel on my video still of this. It's like me ranting about Best Buy. I got stuck literally in a Best Buy for 8 hours because I tried to buy Xenoblade Chronicles X, and was basically like held hostage there because I ordered a copy online and the copy was there, but I didn't get charged the right amount. So the clerk, instead of refunding me the correct amount of money, just refunded it the slow way where it takes 2 to 3 days, and was like,
Oh my
cool, if you
god.
want to buy this, you have to buy it now. And I was like, that's all the
Hmm.
money I had in my account. It was like, well, yeah, it won't be into your account until like another 2 or 3 days. And also, this was the only one that was there because it's a Wii U collector's edition. Because of course that would be the only one there in the Midwest. So I literally had to wait there, and I like begged my uncle to come up to drive. And this was like a super snowy, wintry day because it was a
Oh my
December
god.
release. And I was literally waiting there for 8 hours with this copy, so no one could buy my collector's edition of X. And it was just one of those funny things of like I will never forget. Like I made this unboxing video that was just me ranting at how mad I was at Best Buy, but it was like, you know what? Even after all these years, that was still worth it. It was still
You
worth it to get
gotta.
Xenoblade Chronicles X. But yeah, it's what's so funny then is like I then jumped into 2 day one, torn at day one, and now with 3 literally like releasing on like my birthday month with this one, is like I'm really really invested in this series. And what's funny is I probably should have actually let off with this. I've never played any of the Saga games, but I loved Xenogears growing up, and it was really really funny. Of like, I didn't even really connect the two in my brain when Chronicles 1 was coming out, but I just played it because I was a huge Square Enix fan, and that was a really really solid game. But it's one of those things of like I've been very aware of Saga, but it's also never been one of those things where I'm like I believe in my heart of hearts that Bandai Namco was smart enough to release an HD version of that one day. That I'm like, it's fine. I don't really need to like hurry to play Xenosaga. Whereas like I'm glad I played Gears, and I'm glad like where we're at right now with Chronicles, but it doesn't like feel like it's not really on there like a bucket list thing of like I can't believe I haven't played this, even though I'm sure I would love the entire series for it. But yeah, I've had a really weird history with the series, and yeah, my whole thing with it is just like I just want to dedicate doing this to being an ultimate motivator, because my god, I need to go through and play through 1 Future Connected, 2 and Torna again, because my god, I need a refresher for this whole universe, especially leading into 3. And I
Oh
have a
yeah.
huge pile of shame. like I still haven't beaten Future Connected because I was like, I'm going to replay 1 before I do Future Connected. And it was just like one of those things of like, yeah, I knew you could jump into it, but it just didn't feel right to me. I was like, I wanted to have that context. So this will finally be the year I'm
motivation.
assuming. I assume I'd sink 400 hours into this series.
Yeah.
I'll be honest and say I still haven't beaten Torna Golden Country.
I've only beaten 2.
I would say I don't know, Mac. Is it? I don't even know like what the consensus is because I'm one of those weirdos who actually loves 2. I think Torna's better than 2 personally.
I think Torna is better than 2, but I'm also someone who is more mixed on 2. I still think it's a really good game.
Oh, that's
but
true. Yeah.
I would agree.
Of the Blade series, it is my least favorite. It's not my least favorite overall. That would still go to Xenosaga 2. That game is rough.
I'll say this for the 2 of you who have not played Torna. Did you like the soundtrack in 2?
2's soundtrack is actually really good and strong from what I've gathered, and I know what goes on.
I played Torna. I got like a little bit into it.
Oh, okay. Because the big motivating factor I always tell people is you don't need to play 2 to enjoy Torna, although obviously you will. But the soundtrack in Torna is so underrated. It's like the battle theme
I
alone
love
is
the battle theme of Torna. It's so good.
I love like the ragtime like jazzy.
I'm so glad I made it into Smash.
Feel of it. It's so good. That soundtrack
made it into Smash, right?
Yeah, I think it did.
Plenty of songs did make it in with Pyra and Mythra's inclusion. I don't know if some Torna stuff made it in, but
yeah, I actually don't
I would
think
assume
there's
the
any
only thing
Torna
that would
tracks
have made it
Smash
in if it was
Brothers.
Torna would have been the Torna battle music. Because that soundtrack slapped. I have to say that specific song slapped. For me, I just wanted to throw this out. It's like, so I have played every Xenoblade game. I have not touched any of the other series. I know of them and I've heard things about them, good and bad, but I have not actually touched the other.
Yeah, Xeno is a meta series. I think the quote. I think the term is. It is a series with very, very rough history, and frankly, it wasn't until the Blade series that things started to really work out. And even then, it wasn't supposed to be a Xeno thing at first. It just kind of became one.
It just kind of became one.
That's why, like you mentioned, the whole why Chronicles has stuck was so funny. Whereas, like, in Japan, they've never done it, and it really makes sense because so like them going from Xenoblade to Xenoblade X being super drastic didn't feel that weird. Whereas because they kept Xenoblade Chronicles, it's like, so these are connected, I guess, and it's like no, they like yes but no, like don't think of it like it. If anything, it has one of those things where it is a higher chance of turning someone off to be like, do I need to play X to play 2?
I legitimately don't understand. Like it's been almost 10 years. It's definitely been 10 years since they announced it. But it's just like, why? Why did you add on Chronicles? Like, what purpose does that serve?
If I had to guess,
I mean, honestly, what's funny at this point, like they can't go back though. Like it's too late.
At this point, no.
Yeah, no chance.
If I had to
point.
guess why they added Chronicles to Xenoblade X is because at some point down the line, it will relate back into it.
I gotta put this out there. Correction. Literally, I finally found a thank you to the Smash Brothers wiki. They do indeed, thanks to Pyra and Mythra DLC, they do have the battle track from Torna.
Nice.
I was 90% positive that they did because that like I remember like that.
By the way,
soundtrack
if there is
way
ever a like re-release of like any of these games as a collection, like 30 years in the future, I really hope they're just really stupidly meta, and they're just like Xenoblade Chronicles: The Origins Collection. Just be like to add all the stupid like words that like is not needed at all.
I can definitely see that happening. I think if we do get an Origin collection of sorts with Xenoblade Chronicles, it begs the question: will we? Because this is really the first time where a Xeno series has gotten to explore their big games, like they're big climaxes per se, because Xenosaga, if I recall correctly, got canceled on its 4th game, and then Xenogears only had the one game, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is so just for backstory for anyone else who doesn't know, the entire Xeno series can all be summed up in this story that has been dubbed Perfect Works. I call it a story because I don't really know what else to call it. It's like a plan, actually. Essentially, back when they made Xenogears, which, by the way, side note, Xenogears was originally the plot pitched to be Final Fantasy VII, and it was deemed too dark. Which
Wow.
Yeah, it was deemed too dark for a Final Fantasy game. And having played Xenogears, yeah, it's pretty dark for a Final Fantasy game. Anyway, they had this the whole thing with Xenogears is you beat the game. It's one complete story, but all throughout it, you keep hearing about all these different events that happened 500 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. You keep hearing about these events. And then eventually, once you beat the game and the credits roll and it does the title drop, it shows Xenogears Episode 5. And the whole plan was they were going to do multiple games that were going to be different entries in this overall story that was called Perfect Works. It essentially... Well, I don't think it was officially called Perfect Works. I think that's just the fan name. People have come up with it now. Regardless, it's called Perfect Works. It was gonna be this 5-part thing. Where as time, they would just release multiple games that would take place in these different points in time, and they would all connect together. And eventually, we would get a 6th game that would come at the very end. That would be we're going into the future. We're gonna see what comes after.
I make funny robots in chat. It brings a good correction because I thought Perfect Works is something. Perfect Works is technically the name of the art book for all of the saga stuff, but you are correct. That plot is all detailed within Perfect Works.
No, it was from a Xenogears art book. I'm pretty sure.
It was Xeno everything. Although I will say, you saying that did remind me, and I don't know why I've never bought it, and I might be stupid and buy it. I just realized they did release Xenogears on the PlayStation Store, which means you can play it and download it legally on your PSP or Vita. And I was like, oh my god, Xenogears would be so perfect to play portably.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For the fact that it's like $6, I'm like, do I have time to beat Xenogears in the year 2022? No, but it would be really, really fun to like play in the background for it. I will say this, though, because I almost forgot about our fun factoid. For a series, and like, I don't know, like, I honestly, like, I put Xenoblade up there as, like, I think of it as mainstream as something as, like, a Fire Emblem at this point. Like, obviously, Fire Emblem is more popular, but, like...
I would think Fire Emblem would be a little bit, like... Fire Emblem has exploded to me.
It's up there with, like, those Nintendo, like, big for RPGs, whereas, like, I think it being a Nintendo-published game and, like, being like one of those things, like it is looked at as like a big release, like even something like an Octopath is almost on a lower scale, even though that's like Square Enix and Nintendo, just because of like it's had that history of the Wii U and Switch now for so long. Whereas like what's kind of funny about this is I think this is a pretty big and dedicated fandom, and I've like double checked this. This is the only podcast that has ever been anything Xeno related, which I find absolutely crazy. Like, there's never been a Xenoblade, like, outside of a random one-off, like, on an RPG podcast, there's never been a group of nerds brave enough, if you will, to just make a show. Which is I find so funny, because, like, these are such massive worlds and games and lores for, like, everything that it's, like, I feel like that seems like something that, like, I'm amazed. Like, if there's 9,000 Final Fantasy 14 podcasts, I'm amazed it took us until 2022 to make a Xenoblade podcast.
The closest thing I could think of to a Xeno podcast in general would be something that Anel does, but even then, he doesn't really do best I can think that he does is he makes a video with some friends talking about it, and then it's like, it doesn't have that podcast sort of theme where they talk about general things after, or this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone actually just put that out. Yeah, Keys in the chat said Anel made a podcast, but it was only like 1 or 2 episodes for it. So as long as we go past 2 episodes...
we'll be better than...
when we reach episode 3, we'll be at episode 4, technically, but...
Yeah.
How sad will it be that like legit? I mean, not sad, but like this is how like, and it will be a good segue into actually talking about Xeno 3. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're 7 months away from 3 being released.
Yeah, it's weird.
I have to
It's
say,
insane.
this is something that I've been honestly praising Nintendo for. Like, there's a lot that's been going wrong, right? Just from all companies all over all over, and Nintendo is still like, it's got some problems, right? But one of the things that I've really been impressed with, and that I find just really good about Nintendo, specifically as of a couple years ago, like starting pretty much with the Switch, is the idea that like they don't really, unless it's a game like Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, they don't really tend to announce it until it's pretty close to release, right? Like they give you, like, I'd say a year at most for most games that aren't, again, Breath of the Wild 2 or Mario Odyssey or whatever, right? It's mainly just like, hey, here's Paper Mario, get it in 2 months. Or, hey, here's, maybe Splatoon 3 would also be that thing, but like I like the shorter announcement to release hype cycle that I've been seeing from Nintendo more than things like, like as we've seen with examples with like Cyberpunk, where it's like, hey, we're gonna announce it and then it's never gonna come out. Hey, it's Elder Scrolls, whatever.
Yeah,
It's 5 years later.
I
Right.
really love the fact that games like Astral Chain and Paper Mario were just like, I didn't know they existed. I didn't know they existed, and then they knew they existed, and then they came out.
Yeah,
I do really like that.
I think the
like
worst
it was.
the worst that Nintendo has done is Metroid Prime 4, but they've kept us pretty updated with everything involving it.
Metroid
Yeah,
Prime 4 has a
it's
really good
understandable, just like with the idea that they completely restarted the.
Well, hold on. Was Metroid 2017 E3 or 2018 E3?
It was.
No, it was 2017 because that was the same year
17.
they did Samus Returns. So yeah, that would be long.
Yeah.
Like there's 3 games currently in place for that. In order it goes Prime 4, which God knows if it's even Prime 4 at this point. Bayonetta 3 because that was December 2017, and now Breath of the Wild, whatever the hell it's going to be called.
Breath of the Wild 2 didn't get shown off until 2019, though, right?
Which
Yeah,
is by other release though. That's still crazy how long it's been and how little there's really been kind of shown for it. Because like when it was announced at the time, it was not meant to be like a hey, we're showing you this off because it's years in advance. But just because that team has got so much money, it's like, I mean, really, like, why release for weird flex? But like this is like where my Switch headspace is at. Obviously, it could still come out this year. Now that Nintendo has announced though that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is this year, and like knowing how Monolith like works and how honestly amazingly polished that trailer looked, like I would be astounded if it got delayed, let alone delayed out of this year. If that's the big Switch game this year for me, I do not need I don't need Zelda 2. Like this is already up there in terms of like I'm more excited for that than Breath of the Wild 2 because I know what I'm getting.
Yeah, I would say I'm more excited for this. Like this like Elden Ring and Kirby used to be my like most anticipated games of the year. But Xenoblade, as soon as it got announced, I was like, yep.
Of Yang, those two.
I know, right?
That is the duality of man.
That's like,
I'm
I'm a weird gamer like that, right? But I would say, just as it stands right now, I don't think we're getting Breath of the Wild 2 until like early next year at minimum. Personally,
I can personally see it. It just seems like there's too little we don't know, and with them refusing to reveal the title because it apparently spoils the game. Yeah, I can see it.
I think.
Ganon of the Wild.
So I
actually,
wouldn't.
You know, it would be funny though because Monolith is working on because they worked on Breath of the Wild 1. They are confirmed to be working on Breath of the Wild 2. It would be funny if Breath of the Wild 2 got pushed because they needed to finish Chronicles 3.
Well, to be fair, Chronicles 2 was in development while Breath of the Wild was also being worked on. To be fair, they also were understaffed to hell and back, which is why the game has some flaws, but...
Mm-hmm.
I love my games in 140p. I don't know what you're talking about.
What? Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you guys want to just like kind of just go through in order what we all kind of thought of the trailer, or just like kind of takeaways from it.
Yeah, that sounds
sure.
good.
So first things first, immediately off the gate when I saw the guy playing the flute, I was like, oh, I thought it was gonna be like Fire Emblem for some reason. Again, I was like, oh, is it a new Fire Emblem? Like the next one
Beginning
past
They
and
have
ending
done that
Fire
before,
Emblem.
where they show a spin-off and then a main series, so I could find
Yeah.
it totally believable.
I would have seen that, like, right. And then they started speaking with the British accents, and I was like, oh no.
That's
Oh,
how
no.
Oh no, it can't be. So yeah, like pretty much like as soon as I heard the voice acting, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
It really was a dead giveaway.
Like that's also one of the things that I find really interesting and fascinating about the Xenoblade series is that its unique voice cast in each of the games really does also kind of set it apart from other JRPGs as well. Like let alone just its mechanics and gameplay style. I think like I do really like that about the about Xenoblade. I think it's a very good charm, and again, we already know that they're gonna have at the very least some returning voice actors from 2, specifically Vandom. But I think
And if leaks, well, not really leaks. If Jenna Coleman not being able to shut her mouth up, also people from
I can't believe
Jenna.
Jenna Coleman actually just screwed up. That's really funny.
I like to believe Jenna Coleman knew, and she was just testing Nintendo of like, where am I at in my career? Can I leak this giant game and everyone just thinks I have no idea what I'm talking about?
I didn't actually hear about this. What happened?
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, Mac, you tell it.
Okay, essentially, a few months ago, I think it was back in like July or something. It was a while ago. Jenna Coleman.
It was right after Definitive Edition, which made it even funnier.
Okay, yeah. Essentially, a few months ago, sometime in the last year, Jenna Coleman, the voice actress for Melia, was doing she was doing an interview. I believe it was for some other project she was working on. I don't think it was specifically a Xenoblade related thing. But she was being interviewed. And then they just kind of brought up, hey, you've also done some voice work for video games and stuff. And she's like, oh, yeah, the Xenoblade Chronicles, whatever. And then she's like, they're doing a third one, and they're bringing me back for it. We're recording the third one. And people were like, is she talking about Future Connected? Because that would be understandable if she thought that was a third one. And then people were like, what does this mean? Did she just leak it? Did she just break NDA? And then months later, this happens, like, oh, everyone's like really excited and hyped. And then now people are remembering she leaked it. And it's like, she just screwed up.
That's amazing.
Because I remember she also said she wasn't sure if she could talk about it.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Fantastic.
For Nintendo
I didn't actually hear about that.
Nintendo
That's
should
amazing.
announce a cease and desist letter to Jenna Coleman next week. Be like, everyone, following the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we're also announcing our litigation with Jenna Coleman.
They just completely recast Melia.
Oh, that would suck.
Melia's voice just changes mid-game.
Oh man. But yeah, no, I have to say, like, I really enjoy the variety of accents and voice talent they've gotten over the couple of games. It's really awesome, I have to say. I do hope that we get like I like the idea of some characters coming back. I hope it's not just like, oh hey, everyone's back, right? But I don't think that's going to be the case. They need to be
picky. They need to be picky, and they need to pick characters that,
and they have to have good ideas, like good reasons for it.
There has to be a good reason. It has to be characters that are logical. I'd be fine with like Rex and Shulk being in some like flashbacks, but aside from that, I don't want to see them.
I can understandably see Rex at least, due to the fact that at least Pyra and Mithra have some sort of connection still. But I can also see, in a way, I can see Rex dying and then Pyra and Mithra mourning it.
Yeah, like we'll have to see. Like I guess, like because we also don't know how far into the future, past whatever the end results of 2, this
Yeah,
takes
Mac,
place. It seems like
how would you feel though if they're in it, but they're not like actually story related? Like if they're just Easter egg like weapons or something, or allies.
I'd
I would be
be
fine.
okay
I would be fine with
that.
cameos if it was like the cameo battle with Elma and 2.
Yeah,
Like
that's
if
what I
they
was
did
thinking
stuff
about.
like that, right? I would love that. Like I'm fine with the cameos as if they're not that, you know, um, like this is one of the things that I think the Tales of series does really well is that like pretty much every new game since like Eternia onwards, they've had cameo battles where you can like do an optional dungeon and then at the end you fight previous bosses or even previous protagonists from older games. Like it just kind of as a joke, and they're always super fun and super dope. Right? And I would love to see that for.
I'm gonna call it right now. There will be some amazingly badass villain or character in the plot of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and we will find out at the end of the game that it was actually a time skip Rex, and everyone will eat their words.
The only thing that I can see... Oh, speaking of, that actually brings up what I was going to say. There is a theory that the older Van Damme-looking guy is actually a time-skipped Rex. Or
I
a
don't
Zeke.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that character.
I refuse. I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't like that.
It's out there. It's really weird, but if it happens, you know what? I wouldn't be that surprised just because people have come up with crazier theories. And I personally think that, at the very least, if we do not see Rex, we are seeing Zeke because that man is a Blade Eater and they live a long time.
Honestly, it's all gonna depend on how far ahead in the future it is. It's really just gonna depend on how far in the future it is. Melia doesn't seem that much older, but also she's wearing a mask, so we don't know how much older she actually is.
Has there ever been like a
mask?
Has there ever been as like how to say? Has there been an indication of how old a High Entia is? Like, is there older High Entia? And
we in definitive edition, I believe it was also in the original that you could go into the affinity chart and see how old they were. I don't remember exactly how.
No, I mean
old
like how old
get.
High Entia can really get and how their looks change.
I mean, the only way I would really say was I believe there was elderly High Entia in Alchemoth that you could check, and that would probably give you the close estimation.
So I just Googled it. I do recall there were High Entia, of course, can live couple of hundred years, way longer than Homs, which are just humans.
Yeah.
According to the Xenoblade Wikia, there's evidence of High Entias living upwards of 3 to 4 centuries. So this is likely going to be like 100 to 200 years later, if I had to guess.
I can totally see Zeke living that long, considering that the other Blade Eater, Mikal, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, he lived a good 500 years, considering what was done to him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but he was also like dying.
I do want to bounce like off you guys. Somebody in the chat. I think there were 2 people actually. Keys and might have also been Isla Burbot or somebody else. We're bouncing this off of. How would you all feel if we had? It was so much in the future that it's like post credits. We see it is somehow tied in or starts to lead into the world of Xenoblade X. Like, I think that would actually be kind of fun to be so full circle if it is kind of tying everything off and then leading everyone into it, because then that would sort of make sense into why it's all so different, while also then hopefully leading people into a eventual...
I don't think that could work simply just based off the natures of the worlds that the number and X series work in. Especially because...
so like not like connected like story-wise stuff, but more like you would get like a post-credit stinger of kind of like a scroll up. You see Horizon, and it's almost it's literally just like, congrats, you beat the game. Here's an ad for another game you should buy.
So it just ends and it's like, go buy Xenoblade X for the Wii U.
Okay, legit, this would never happen. But how amazing would it be if when you beat Xenoblade Chronicles 3, if you beat it, a eShop link pops up. It says, "Congratulations, you now have earned the ability to buy Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Switch," and that's the only way to play it. You have
For
to
a
beat
limited
Xenoblade
time
Chronicles
only.
3.
That would be insane.
I would honestly love that. That would be the greatest reward for playing a video game ever, but no chance, zero chance.
Clearly,
Unfortunately.
Ringo, you've never played the Japanese version of Dragon Quest XI, which ends with literally a link to the PlayStation Store that gives you Dragon Quest 1.
You're right. I haven't. I have not played any Dragon Quest, actually.
So, you know what the sad part is? Like, as much as that would be hilarious, there would be a massive part of me that is sad, and I at least know Nintendo is not. Nintendo is at least, thankfully, not shy of releasing physical games. I would actually be super sad if X just got a digital port. Like, that would be, like, super lame, because I know no one would buy it then.
Yeah. Well, if people would buy it. It just, I feel like that would be really kind of disheartening for fans of X because it feels a lot more like half-assed.
It's locked behind a paywall. In the most it would be the most obtuse, like, interesting paywall of all time, but still paywall.
It would be one of those things where, like, realistically, if they did do that, like, obviously they wouldn't, but, like, it would also be one of those things of, like, and then, like, 3 months later you could buy it, like, whatever. But, like,
Yeah.
my thing I was wanting to kind of pick everybody's brain with 3 is, and I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this. This is our first game with distinct 2 different protagonists. And
Is there actually 2 protagonists? I thought it was just the one.
It is
Nintendo-
confirmed that there is 2.
yeah, Nintendo has very specifically said that. Oh god, I always forget what's the girl's name. It's Noah and what?
Mia.
Yeah, Noah and Mia are specifically the lead protagonists of the game. Like, so if you look at their PR stuff for it, it's not just Noah, it is both of them as the leads. And I really think and I mean, I think a large part of what shows that is, like, if you look at the box art, like, it's not just one of them, it is both of them. I'm wondering, does this game... I hope, because it's weird of, like, obviously they wouldn't do, like, multiplayer or co-op, because that would just be way too advanced for whatever this is trying to be, but I would almost kind of like if you can kind of pick and choose who's you want to see until... Because clearly the trailer shows they're not working on the same team right away. They're at war against each other, and I think it'd be really interesting of, like, oh, I want to get Noah's story first, or I want to get her story, and then you can kind of bounce back and forth until they eventually meet back up. Like, think very, very dumb version of, like, Octopath Traveler or, like, a 13
Shadows of Valentia.
Yeah, exactly.
What I was actually gonna bring up is Tales of Xillia actually does this, where you actually get to experience the story. Like, there's 2 main protagonists. There's one that's obviously like, hey, it's your first run through the game, play as this character, right? But they also give you the chance to play through the entire game as the other main character and see different events and things like that. And it's pretty cool. I don't think it's done the best, because just, again, there's obviously, like, the one who's like, oh, if you are playing this game for the first time, play this character. Otherwise, the second one, like, the other character, just doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah,
I don't.
Another great comparison.
I would rather,
very similar.
because of that experience, I would say I would rather them, if they are going to do that kind of route, have it so that it's not like, hey, from the very start, pick this character, right? It would flip-flop between, in a similar sense to if you guys have played Nier Automata in the third act, how they flip-flop between
but I would prefer that. I was gonna say I would prefer if for the first, like, third or something, for the first act, the game is just having you bounce back and forth between the 2 characters, so you get to know both teams and learn, like, what the strengths of every character, and then once they come together, then you can, like, okay, I want to mix and match now. As opposed to, oh, you got a new party member, but I like my current party setup, so I'm not going to play as them.
I think that's very useful for making characters get built up a lot more, and provides a way for people to bond with them, because a lot of people usually have their set party members and don't stray too far from that.
I want to put an argument out there, because, and again, I'm very much in the minority here, but I'm curious what you all think about this. I'm not a fan of that storytelling structure a lot in RPGs, because I think it's all too easy when the game is directing who you're playing as first or who goes where, like my worry is going to be, okay, you start the game as Noah, and then you think she's bad because you only see his perspective, or blah blah blah, and the game's just going to do that thing of like you spend like an uneven amount of time with characters where it's like I don't even know who you are, where like it loses that effect because like it's always that struggle of how much time do you spend with each character before they eventually kind of like come back together. And actually another example that I really like, but obviously I would be amazed if Xenoblade committed this much time before you're actually a full complete party. Like an example of a story where it splits the two protagonists up for long amounts of time, but it pays off on my point of it is I really like how Last of Us 2, you basically play a complete campaign before you ever get to play the other protagonist. And by the time you then get there, it's like, oh my god, like I have no idea like what like it where like you would commit to so much of one story before going on to the other, because I worry then if you're bouncing back and forth before meeting up with each other, it then gets a chance of being messier because we're all going to be getting introduced to one character's side of things, their cast of friends, their village, their terms, their terminology, and then 2 hours later, okay, you got to go meet somebody else. You got to learn their stuff. You got to do their stuff, and then you're just flip flopping until. And so it can get a lot messier when it's in a JRPG setting.
I think that's just the idea of what is good pacing, right? Rather than an inherent issue with the style of storytelling. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, I'm
execution.
glad they're at least mixing it up. Like, I think them committing to two protagonists is like one of the most exciting things for me, just because I would be lying to you if I said if this was just another Sword Boy, I'd be a little disappointed.
One thing I'll say real quick, just because you said it, and then we'll just get back to this discussion. It is doing the dual protagonist thing, but let's be honest, Noah's like the main antagonist.
Protagonist.
You mean protagonist? No spoilers.
What did I say? Did I say antagonist?
You did say antagonist.
Okay, I mean protagonist
already.
I mean protagonist.
Spoilers, Macca. Come on.
How evil would that be if it is actually you get to pick who you want to play as more and whatnot, and whatever character you don't put as much time into ends up being the like betrayer at the end, so you can have two different antagonists of like, oh, you like Noah, so now she's going to be the evil bad guy. Now you have to kill your other party member.
Oh God.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's just Noah is pretty clearly like he's the real main character. Obviously, there's going to be equal focus on both. But there's gonna be like at least in like the marketing or like even just the way it starts off.
That actually, I don't get that vibe at all from him.
Because I've seen other things where it's like we have a dual protagonist, but then there's always like this guy feels like there's more attention being given to him than others.
He's got a penis though. He's a little more marketable.
He's kinda.
I don't know about that, but I got the same sense because, to be honest, I didn't even know that there was going to be dual protagonists. I just assumed dude main bro with red sword is going to be the main protagonist, right? So that's just my 2 cents.
It does keep in theme with how the red sword usually belongs to the protag. But
that's kind of part of the why I think he's going to be more of the protagonist, because he's the one with the Monado equivalent.
But I want to point out
I'm
that
curious.
I want to point out that
because I know you're a little more iffy on 2 than the rest of us. Speaking of him, though, were you surprised? Because I know you've been into the designs of 3. Were you surprised how much of a step up it was being in a similar but different direction from 2 going into 3?
So when I saw the trailer for 3, I was like, "Oh my god, they all look fantastic." In the moment, I looked at their faces and was like, I'm still not the biggest fan of the faces, but I can excuse that because the designs are like fantastic." And then I read that letter from Takahashi where it was like, "Oh, we got Saito again." I was like, I was literally dumbfounded. I didn't understand how this could be the same man, because his designs in 2, there'll be some absolute bangers like Morag and Zeke, and then you'll get some other designs where I'm just like, this is awful. I don't like this. So I'm just shocked they're like all consistently amazing. And it seems like they were like, "Hey Saito, we want to get you back again. Go jack off."
What you did for 2, Not this time.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll get Tom's
million
answer.
dollar question, and I would love to know what chat thinks. Actually, I should make a poll for this because that's like what having live people are here for. But while I make it, do we want guest illustrators to come back or not? Because I love the
loved it.
The
artist
reason
crossovers.
why Saito, I think, had a lot of inconsistent designs is because largely guest illustrators also provided a lot more freedom for the kind of environment that Bleeds could inhabit. So Saito, as an extension, probably was given a lot more freedom. I think if we do get guest illustrators back, we need to be conscious of how it might affect the design. If they're going to be able to go freely with what they want to do, or if they're limited to more of a grounded approach.
Well, I mean, I would think like if you give them the categories of like, okay, we're gonna go with a Homs, we're gonna go with a high end tier, we're gonna go with a Gormati, we're gonna go with the Urai and like people. Like if we go with like, hey, now go wild within these constraints, I would say I would be fine with guest artists doing all the design.
This does make me consider like there are blades confirmed within the game. One of the characters we play as, Mio, is actually a blade eater, so it makes me think like, does that mean they'll have a lot more creative control in that sense too if guest illustrators do come back?
Personally, I don't think guest illustrators will be a thing, mainly because a large reason why there were guest illustrators was because of the blade system. And from everything it's seeing, the blade system is not back. Blades are still a thing, but it's not going to be the blade system like it was previously. And it would be,
I hope it's not.
And I think it would be weird if they were to was like, oh yeah, this just one race of people, they're the only ones where they can have these random like guest designs that don't fit in with everyone else.
There's one thing I love that everyone always forgets when it comes to guest illustrators, there's a reason I don't specifically tie it to blades. Never underestimate the power of Tetsuya Nomura. Because I'm like,
I mean, of course, yeah.
I 100% believe you, but I would love it if they're just there are no blades this time. So we didn't have as many guest illustrators. But Nomura-san had a million other games he was working on, but we had to have him draw some people, though. So here you go, everybody.
He wanted to draw the one girl. He's like obsessed with drawing now. Every single game he's worked on in the last like 2 to 3 years has this design in it.
I'm actually looking at a list
design?
right now
Could
of
you
all
link it
the
in
guest
chat?
blades. I forgot there were so many. I thought there was like 4 or 5. There were a ton.
There are a lot.
Oh yeah, no.
Actually, bringing it up, fuck, what was I gonna say? Dang, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was
Tetsuya
gonna
Nomura,
bring
my
it back to
name's,
you because you were about to
Pablo.
say something earlier, but I didn't get to it in time. I apologize.
I do know what I was gonna say earlier. I don't know what it's something related to Nomura, but just like him being on so many games, it's like, oh, what if so the High-Entia are actually a race I think he would benefit from just drawing every single High-Entia.
I'd be interested to see his take on High-Entia, but I don't know if I fully agree with that.
So,
But-
real quick, I guess I gotta ask, like this I would say this art style is kind of blending the remake of 1 and 2. Right, we can obviously see that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which of the two? Because as similar as they are, I would still say they are distinct. Which of the two did you guys prefer? Because in 1, I would say it's more grounded and more earthy toned, realistic shading toned, right? Where 2 had a lot more like pastel, brightly colored characters and things like that.
I personally prefer 2.
I personally prefer the more grounded, earthy tones of 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really torn because like
Nah.
the series, yeah, thank you. Because
Yay.
it's really weird.
Let's go.
Like this is kind of the closest we've really been to a more traditional kind of continuation of art styles. Just because, Jesus, man, even going from Wii and 3DS graphics to Definitive Edition is so jarringly different.
I think
Yeah,
we can all
like,
agree that
I think that was just a style of limitations for the Wii
True.
Well,
but
I
think
mean,
it was.
there,
I think
there
it was.
are there are staunch defenders who think this definitive edition looks worse. And I mean, I'll give you
No.
I can
this.
like.
I would have thought it'd been cool to put a graphical filter switch, but that would have been so much more work to do, especially in a game with like that many assets and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think for me, it's tough because like my answer for what I prefer is kind of a cop out, but like legitimately my answer is 3 because it takes everything I like from the grounded nature of 1 and the more anime style of 2 and kind of makes like a perfect hybrid.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I will say I definitely am loving how 3 looks.
Absolutely.
I think 3.
As I said, I'm still not a fan of. I'm still not a fan of the faces. I'm just not a fan of Saito's. To be honest, I feel like Saito, his faces are just really like stereotypical anime. But I am really loving what they're doing with 3, where it is kind of taking the best from both.
Yeah. That was the one thing I was like, I played 2 without much real I didn't really remember 1 too much when I was playing 2 the first time back when it came out in 2017, and then going back and playing 1 for a friend who'd never seen the game before, like going back and appreciating the more earthly tones and the more realistic art style. I was like, wow, this game, as much as I love 2, I love the art style of 1, especially the definitive edition. And then when we went back and went back to 2, it's like I could still really appreciate it. Like the environments and such, and the characters were really nice in 2. Like I will definitely like still respect the hell out of it. But I think that just personally to my preferences and my tastes, I think 1 handles both characters and the environment better. Just for the way
going
like
off of
it's
design,
lit.
though, I think we should talk about the elephant in the room, which is funny because I mean, I doubt any of us actually care about this.
Uh-huh.
I was genuinely shocked that there were people, which is funny because like I know I should be surprised that people are gonna like bring up censorship even when it doesn't really need to be brought up. Not 1 second of me looking at any of the characters either in the trailer or in the official art that came out afterwards from the direct was I like, whoa, dude, they really had to tone down the sex appeal. Because like it's one of those things where it's like obviously we've seen literally a sliver of the entire cast, so it's one of those funny things of like I'm still expecting, even though maybe no one in the main cast we've seen so far has very obvious like showing off naked thigh or cleavage. Like for me, I'm also like I don't think the game's missing anything for not having that shown right away. Like I think all the designs are still solid.
I fully expect there to be at least one booby lady. I fully expect that.
It's a JRPG, right? like it's a JRPG.
Even Xenoblade 1 had booby ladies, but like my whole thing was 2 felt like there was too many, and it was too like everywhere, or like they were like too prominent. With this,
besides like Pyra and Mithra, like who else is like overtly
Dahlia.
like in the story about like
Dahlia is okay.
There's
a lot of blades.
I don't like this.
Okay, the blades I can get. I'm more thinking of it, I guess, like like from the specific side of it for it. But no, I definitely.
Even if you were just go from the main character, like even from the main party, like I love Bridget's design. Right, it's really good, but at the same time, it also is just in your face. I think
I don't really mind it. Then again, I'm sort of desensitized.
It's much better designed around than I would say Pyra and Mithra, right?
One of the
really
funny things with like the designs for me is I'm one of those people that like, oh god, please correct me. Were they changed when they became stickers in Smash or when they were fighters in Smash?
Mithra was when she became a sticker in Smash. Pyro was when she was from the Smash itself.
Gotcha. So when those designs got changed, I literally didn't notice it was changed until they updated Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with the Smash costumes. I was like, oh, there's a difference.
I think the thing is, like, with Mithra's design at least, it's not as noticeable because those type of clothing pieces do exist in real life and they're relatively common, so it's just like, you can assume it's just a natural clothing choice where you could go to the beach one day or go for a walk and you see someone with that kind of clothing design. With Pyra's, it's kind of all over the place, but I personally don't mind it.
I had a big issue with, like, I honestly felt Pyro was just over designed in that regard. I think, like,
with her
like,
Smash design was over designed, or her original
no,
design?
the original. Like,
okay,
I
yeah,
still
so
think
I
I still
mostly
think
mean,
the
like, the
Smash
Smash
design could have
redesign.
been toned down a little bit. Like, I don't really see that big of a difference between the regular and the Smash design. I'll be honest, I didn't.
Spats.
You know.
That's the design difference.
Tight.
Spats for days.
People love their
Real
tights.
quick. I'll be back in a bit. I gotta go to the bathroom.
How
Take
dare
your
you,
time.
Mac?
He's got to whip
Alright.
out his blade.
But mainly, I'll say this: it's just like I think that they over designed a lot of the characters in 2, and I am glad that there wasn't anyone from the trailer that I saw immediately. And this may be wrong, that at the very least from the trailer alone, unlike 2, right? You can immediately say like, oh hey, I don't see anyone that I think is like, I like all of the designs in 3. I don't think anyone is over designed. I love the characters' outfits. I love the the weapons and things like that. I think it's everything looks really good, which I couldn't say for 2. Just because, like, I still think Pyre and Myth are great characters, and in of what you guys were saying about, like, the clothes could logistically make sense, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, censor everything, right? That's not what I'm saying. But it is like there was a point where I was just like, okay, come on, this is a bit much, right? So
I'm curious while Mac is here, because I don't even know how much he would care about this, but this is a really dumb thing I actually want to see in 3, especially due to its release, and I think it would make so much sense, even though Monolith has literally never done this themselves. I will be legitimately mad if there is not amiibo support in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Because the fact that they had it in 3D with the Shulk amiibo, which was like one of the most niche fucking amiibo uses.
What did the amiibo
ever.
do in the 3DS version? I forget.
Didn't it unlock
Ultimate-
just a gallery?
It was literally just you could unlock coins daily for the gallery mode of like listen to music or look at artwork, but it was something like just something like fun to unlock or whatever. Like there was nothing different in the game, but I just thought it was so funny. Like A, because I love the Shulk amiibo, and B, just because it was like I love like when Nintendo games are like we've got to think of something to do with these amiibos, and we can't just be like you get one random freebie item. And I think it would be so funny if like okay guys. There are now 3 Xenoblade amiibo that will be out because we'll have both Pyras out by then, and we'll have Shulk. It's like you've got to do something just because it'd be like it would be such like a wasted opportunity because especially it's like Nintendo has been really reserved with how they use amiibo, but I just think it would be such a funny thing of like let's end the series because like. Honestly, I don't expect us to get any Xenoblade Chronicle 3 amiibos. I would love to be proven wrong. Like, do you think there's, like, even a chance in hell? Because, like, for me, it's always, like, if they weren't in Smash, we would have never gotten a Xenoblade amiibo.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely think, like, there's definitely a chance, right? I think it would be cool if it was, like... what am I trying to say here? I think it would be neat if they had something like if they are going to do anything with the amiibo. I think the way that they have to handle amiibo, especially going off of the Zelda and Loftwing example, is it has to give you something, but it does not like there has to be a different way to obtain it, right? And the easiest thing that I would think would be, in my personal preference, what I would like from an amiibo, as a person who's bought pretty much all of them, aside from like all of the Smash ones anyway, I would like just alternate costumes. If you could get like Rex's outfit for the main character, if you get like Pyramithor's outfit for the main.
Oh my god, Ringo, that's so current. I just put like in Photoshop in my brain, literally just took Noah's head.
And put it on Rex. That would be hilarious, right?
I've got to tweet that out.
It's the same way that like you could get Rex's costume in Breath of the Wild when they did that crossover. Like that was hilarious.
I honestly do think that if they want to be more creative, and this is just a wild theory with how blades are in the game already, this is the theory of how I think that Blades are going to have a little mechanic, the Blade party members, where you can choose between the Xenoblade 1 style, or if you team up with a character, you can have one character using the Blade's weapons. But that could be completely wrong. But if that theory is right, I can totally see, like, Amiibos unlocking, doing it what Wolf Link did for Breath of the Wild, where you could have this little companion with you.
That would be interesting. Again, like as long as if they do Amiibo support, right, they have to have an alternate way to unlock it in the game, right?
I mean, I don't think they necessarily have to have an alternate way. I think they just need to have it not have as high of an impact.
Yeah, there's no way they do. Like, if you're Nintendo, you're not doing one. Because, like, just go back, like you said with the Skyward Sword thing. Like, there's no way to use that feature without the Amiibo.
And that caused such a backlash.
I will say this. I don't know how often you guys go to stores. In the Midwest, like the Loftwing Amiibo is literally everywhere.
It was absolutely barren when I was trying to get it when it first came out.
Yeah,
I missed the pre-order.
I don't know if you remember, literally the week before release last July, a shipping delay happened, and Nintendo didn't really, like, announce this very well, but literally half of their shipment was just stuck due to, like, shipping delays, and they took, like, 3 months after release to come out. So they were, like, rare for those first 3 months, and now, like, I go to stores and it's like there's 10 per store. It's crazy.
Really? Yeah, no,
yeah,
I don't think...
even the Dread ones, which I thought the Dread pack would be really,
I still gotta
really
get the Dread.
It could be because they are smarter with their stock than they were when Amiibo first came out, because the biggest problem there...
Scalpers.
It's at least thankfully easier for them now, whereas, like, at least... Okay, hey, what should we do regarding, it's like, oh, what should we do regarding this many for this? And, like, I'll also say this, because, like, Nintendo doesn't really get enough credit in this department. The fact that Nintendo still is reprinting old Smash, like, Wave 1 Amiibo is, like, insane to me. And, like, they do it when it makes sense. Like, they reprinted them for Metroid, they reprinted some for Zelda, like, they reprinted the old Breath of the Wild ones for Age of Calamity. Like, honest to God, if there's... Honestly, even if there's not support, I bet you when the Mithra and Pyro Amiibo come out, the Shulk one will get reprinted. Because why not? Like, who's... Like, yeah, I bet there are a lot of people out there who don't have it.
Especially if the idea that, like, you know... Again, like I think the simple and best way for everything to do, like if they wanted to do Amiibo support, if they're doing Amiibo support, was like scan the Shulk Amiibo, get the Shulk costume or Rex costume, scan Pyramithra, get Pyramithra outfits or whatever, like get outfits for the main characters or something like that, right? And then have also another way to get it in game, whether it's like by purchasing them or doing special quests or whatever.
I say make it New Game Plus exclusive. Make them like New Game Plus exclusive costumes that you could get in your first run through with the Amiibos. I think that would be a good idea.
I still think that would be. I think that would be a little. Eh.
The biggest thing with the Loftwing is it was a quality of life feature that was locked behind an Amiibo.
Behind the paywall, and that's why I think, again, like no matter what it gives you, it shouldn't be that hard or that far away to get in the base
that is where
game.
I think that you are limiting your thinking, because you're thinking about it like a costume is the same sort of importance as this quality of life feature. The biggest thing is with, again, the reason why people weren't as mad about the Wolf Link Amiibo, I certainly did see some people mad, but people were largely happy with how the Wolf Link Amiibo turned out. That was a relatively well-received Amiibo.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that was also literally bundled in with the game, so you had to go out of your way to not get that Amiibo.
True. But then that goes back to Pyra and Mithra. I highly doubt they will be that rare. Nintendo has been amazing.
I bet you 100% they will be rare. And the only reason I say that is because there is no way in hell Nintendo is selling them not in a double pack. Like, they will be sold together, and all multi-pack Amiibos are always stupidly expensive.
All right.
Because it costs more money to make them, and what dumb weeb is gonna buy Pyra but not Mithra. It's like Nintendo knows knows what's going on with that. So it's just one of those funny things of like, yeah, I'm just fully expecting at this point that's going to be a complete disaster. Mac, actually, since you came back, I don't even know like what's your stance on Amiibo? Like, do you have the Shulk
It's
Amiibo?
almost been a
are you
year
a
since
Shulk
the last
boy?
Amiibo, by the way. I just looked at it for the Smash Amiibo. The last Amiibo to be released was Banjo, Terry, and Violet on March 26th of 2021, and Min, Steve, and Alex are supposed to be slated for spring 2022.
Dang, we better be getting them soon.
Like, right? What? That's crazy.
If you guys want me to blow your mind with that, I don't know if you heard, because I'm a big dum-dum and I like to follow plastic toys. I used to actually vehemently hate Amiibo until I worked at a GameStop and we had one extra 3-pack of the Splatoon ones, and I was like, I'll get one. I won't get any more. I'll just get one. It'll be fine. And then I'm looking at my big stupid shelf. But no, I think what Nintendo's doing is they're not going to really include them in directs anymore. But they just literally got their shipment of Min Amiibo. So she's made. She's just ready to come. So I think they're all happening. It's just going to be a matter of when. And I think the Smash ones, it's that announcing now that Smash DLC's done, there's no point in announcing Amiibo in a direct, that seems to me that seems like a Twitter thing. That seems like you just announce on Twitter, hey,
Quick little video on
plastic.
YouTube. Hey.
Yeah, it's go get your
Min.
plastic, or complain that it's already sold out. We'll see you on eBay. Do whatever, and we'll see you from there. Because it's just one of those things of you're either in or you're out. Because no one's jumping into the Amiibo game this late.
Yeah, that's true.
God, if you were though, what a time to be alive.
I'm still missing out. I am actually pretty close to finish the Smash. But I still I'm missing a bunch of the early ones that I jumped on a little bit late.
Ringo, do you need me to get you Box Boy? I'll get you Box Boy if you need him.
I don't know if I have Box Boy actually.
You probably don't. He is a Japanese exclusive. It is very expensive.
See, I went the problem is I went to Japan and I got the Japan exclusive Monster Hunter ones.
Oh, but then you got to get the gold Monster Hunter ones. Okay, we need to get off Amiibo talk.
I know,
okay.
Right?
Xenoblade.
Important dumb Xenoblade question, because I'm trying to look this up, but I don't think the information's out there. Do we know who the composers are for this yet? I don't think Monolith has come out and said who's who.
No, they have.
Okay.
Have they?
It's the entire team from 2. Everyone.
Oh, okay, good. Because my worry wasn't it was going to be someone new. My worry was they were going to lose someone from that original sound team.
No, they already they said so in that initial letter that Takahashi made, where he said it was Saito. He also said that he listed off all the composers, and it's everyone from 2.
So are 2 also the same, or at least are some of the people that worked on 2 also the people that worked on 1 by any chance, or at the very least, did they do any of the remixes for Definitive Edition?
So everyone who worked on 2 worked on 1. However, the lead composer, I feel so dumb. I'm blanking on his name. Did.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Shimamura.
No. Oh my god, no. He did Chrono Trigger. Oh my god. I gotta look this up.
Which one? Because there were a lot of people who did Chrono Trigger. Yeah, now you
well, the lead. Yasunori
right.
Mitsuda. He's
yeah,
the lead
I was about
composer.
to say.
Yeah. He's still there.
So the thing is Mitsuda, he did one song for Xenoblade 1, and that was Beyond the Sky, the end credit song. Or the final song, whatever. He didn't do anything else for it. Also Yoko Shimomura was on Xenoblade 1. Thank you, Keys. But she only did a few songs and she didn't come back. For
I
2,
would love to know, do you think she's just never been asked, or I imagine she's just too expensive. I
don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be expensive because they did it for Mario and Luigi, so I don't think it would be expensive. I think it's just
That's one of those things though. That's Nintendo asking you to do Mario. That's obviously her resume doesn't fucking need anyone's help or whatever. But Nintendo's hey, do you want to do Mario's back scratcher minigame? And you're hell yeah. It's do you want to return for this very massive RPG? Because like Shimamura like talks about a lot, like she likes doing lots of different soundtracks, but RPGs just take a lot out of her, and like.
Yeah.
One of the rare
Makes
things in her
sense.
career that people don't really talk about very much was she originally wasn't planning on doing the Kingdom Hearts spin-offs. She was like, "Oh, I'll just do the mainline ones, and they can just get someone else to do it." But like, she was like so tied to it that like every game, they kept bringing her back to it for, and it was so funny. Of like, they probably could have gotten away with it, and obviously those don't have as big of a score as like the console games. But it's one of those things of just like it set that tone, and I don't think like she was needed into like obviously that whole team like really did a good job and everything with it, and I love that sound team. But it is one of those things of like again because we're kind of coming into like a big milestone for this, assuming this is the end of a trilogy and everything as we're expecting. It then has me kind of wondering. I'm like, it would be cool if like what if we do the flip and instead she comes in and she does the end credits theme.
I feel like they would have said that she'd be involved if she
No,
was.
no, like no, but that's my like you. That's why you keep it a secret. Like she's the end credit. Like the way like they weren't advertising Mitsuda was doing Xenoblade Chronicle 1's ending theme, whereas like as like a fun kind of
They
like
weren't really
homage,
advertising.
like,
Well, like they weren't really advertising anyone is doing. It was composing the game.
They weren't really advertising Xenoblade Chronicles 1 at all, really.
That's also true.
So it's one of those things where like I honestly would be happy with whatever thing kind of happens with it, but it is also that thing of just like whatever happens. I'm totally fine with it, but it is those things that, like I could see it though. Like it seems like too easy of like a like for lack of a better word, it seems like too easy of a No Way Home moment. Like if fucking Blue's Clues can make their No Way Home, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it's like I hope with this being like your trilogy ender, I hope you're aware of like all these little fun moments you could do that like while some may say oh that's just fan service is still like beneficial and like has like fun meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I was saying, they Mitsuda only did the end theme for Xenoblade 1. For 2, he was the lead composer, and it seems like that's going to be the case again for 3 because when they were talking about the composers for 3, they started off by saying Mitsuda and then going on to things like Ace and that kind of thing. So, yeah, those are the composers for 3. It's just the guys
Okay,
from 2 again.
I have a question because I don't actually know. I'm not a huge I don't know unfortunately everything
You're
about
not a nerd.
everything.
It's okay.
Was the people that did 2 also the people that did X's soundtrack?
No.
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 I know the people that did X did the Kill la Kill soundtrack, and also I think Metal Gear Rising.
I don't think
no,
I know.
I'm not sure about.
They didn't do Rising.
I don't. Yeah, that's a different thing,
There
bro.
was a
Like
stretch,
literally.
but-
Oh my
American,
god! Like
I think.
I feel like if you told someone who hasn't played Xenoblade Chronicle X, like if you just played the battle theme to Xenoblade X and it was like, is this a song or is this a YouTube poop? I think more people would think it's a YouTube poop.
What, Black Tar?
just because it's like it's so drastically different. Like I love it. It fucks really hard, but it's just one of those things of like, man, God bless. Like I don't know. Like obviously this will never really come out unless like maybe there's a re-release or something. But,
I
like,
will be right back.
I bet you.
Take your
I
time.
bet there are so many stories about like because like realistically, Nintendo probably gave Monolith too much freedom for X. It was like, all right, guys, you're making a big budget
that.
sequel. Well, like, and I don't mean in a bad way, but like in a way of like, there was no moment in X where it felt like, guys, ring it back a little, because like that was just unfiltered Monolith being Monolith.
I don't know what you would mean by like they like what were they like rein it in like I don't know what you're talking about with that. I don't know what you mean.
I don't
by
think there was
that.
anything too extreme for.
No,
yeah.
but like I'm saying it. There was nothing in that felt like, hey guys, do you want to tie into the first one a little more? Do you want this to sound a little bit like the first? Do you want it to look a little bit like the first?
Well, that's mainly because it was supposed to be its own thing. They weren't planning on going
exactly,
back.
But like
one.
that's kind of what I mean in terms of it's not even a safe. It's not a traditional sequel, even by like a traditional like jumping off point. Like if you look at something like a great example is like. obviously not counting Tales of Arise, because Tales of Arise is a very large departure. When you're going from Xillia to Xillia 2 or Berseria or like any of those games, you get it. Like, you can tell that one was made by another, whereas like the amount of things where like there's no create a character with jiggle physics in any of these other games, but it's in here. Like, it's just a lot of little things that like
I would still
love.
say, like, aside I kind of get what you're saying. It's like in comparison to the previous game, there's really not that much similar between X and 1 in the way that they are, right? The gameplay, like the gameplay, I would say is the biggest clue that you're playing still a Xenoblade game, aside from the title, right? Like the fact that you were like, if you showed someone scenery and gameplay from 1 and then you jump to X, right? I would still say like the way that you traverse the world and especially just the combat are very more or less similar, right? Similar enough to where a casual observer will be like, oh, that's probably the same series, right? In the same way that like you show someone like something from Final Fantasy like 2 and then you jump to 6, it's like, okay, obviously a lot's different, right? But it's still
great example. Go back to the PS2 generation. You bringing up Final Fantasy, a great example from Xenoblade 1 to X, where it's like, wow, they really had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. Like, it's, imagine how at the time when we went from playing Final Fantasy 10 to 12, it's like, I get this is a Final Fantasy game, but holy shit, this is really different.
also, so being a big JRPG nerd, I have only just recently finally played a Final Fantasy, and it was 7. So I know nothing about anything else. OG 7, yeah, and then like it was in preparation for a remake, but
okay. I mean, honestly, like they all, like I'm super biased. They all age like fine wine in my opinion, unless it's 3. So like, honestly, just jump into them whenever you, and they're all fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So like Mac, like if at any point like it sound, because like it's weird. Like, it's the way I'm putting it makes it sound like it either should have been or they should have had that over them. It's just one of those things of, it's so rare, especially I think in Nintendo's development pipeline with their partners, to get a game that even feels like X, just because it's like, with the rare exception of, fuck, apparently we'll go back to Kirby again, like, when you look at Kirby Star Allies, that's the kind of fucking Kirby game you think Nintendo greenlights for $1 million. Whereas then you look at something like In the Forgotten Land, you're like, wow, this team got to do some fun stuff. Like, that's an adventure, like, that is a departure for Kirby.
I would still say there's cases of that, because it's like Bayonetta 2, right? Like, that was Nintendo greenlighting that entire setting, right? But like, they went to town on Bayonetta 2. I still need to play it.
Yeah, Bayonetta 2 is a weird one of like, Bayonetta 2 has a lot of things for it, but Bayonetta 2 is still very much just a better Bayonetta 1. It doesn't, I don't think, like, outside of having more like holy shit moments,
it's not as much of a departure.
Yeah, I guess, like, honestly,
yeah, right, but honestly, like maybe 3 might kind of be that way. Like, you would hope so with how long it's kind of been in development for it. But that's just one of those things that one of the things I've always really, really loved about X was just how unique
different,
and like how it felt like an auteur's kind of movie. I'll call back to Mac's favorite movie of all time, the Snyder Cut. It's really the Snyder Cut of Monolith's library.
Absolutely.
Mac's
like,
favorite
movie. Here's a great one. Have all of us beaten Xenoblade Chronicles X who've played it?
Yes.
Okay. When you beat that game, were you like, boy, they sure cut a lot out of this game?
Yes. Yes. But I was also like, oh my god, I need a sequel.
Well, let me at least say this. It wasn't one of those games that was like, because that was even pretty big at 2015 at the time, of like getting half games like Metal Gear Solid 5, of like man, this is a massive ass game, and there's a lot of stuff to it and stuff for it. Like, obviously, yeah, there were things cut for development, but it is just one of those things of like, you know how Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think they've talked about it more after release. But, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 clearly did not have as much time in the oven as it probably wanted to have. Whereas, like, Xenoblade Chronicles X feels like the opposite. Xenoblade Chronicles X maybe might be rivaled by 3 at this point. Chronicles X is like that was like a game we saw for like years. Of like we knew they were working on it. Like they had a lot of time to like let that kind of cook in the oven because there was no real rush for it, and it was just one of those funny things of just being like, cool, do your thing, guys, because we're living in the Wii U era. There's no way to over fail. You can just hopefully not fail as hard as everyone else.
Yeah, the thing, like, X is like even okay. Let's say you're one of those jackasses that hates X and they think like it was a mistake on every level. That game was still absolutely like what that game did. It literally laid the groundwork for everything to come after. The entire reason we've been able to get all these games so fast afterwards is because they spent the whole thing with X is they spent the vast majority of its development just building the engines with the specific purpose of later down the line, like using it in later games, so it would be they'd be able to develop things faster. So yeah, no, X was in the oven for a long time, but it was absolutely worth it. So even if you don't like the game itself, like X was still kind of like this necessary step in order to get what we have now.
Here's a weird one I want to ask you guys.
I didn't actually know that 2 and Definitive Edition actually ran off of the same engine as X. Like, I guess that makes sense.
Obviously, they're evolved versions.
They made that engine.
Yeah.
They made that engine just for that one, and that was a big point of them for that proprietary tech. Which I mean, honestly, like outside of there are technical complaints in terms of its like free form resolution and stuff for handheld mode and stuff, and that's definitely a valid complaint.
I think that was also just limitations of the Wii U. More than...
well, actually, no. The Wii U was actually not that like straddled to it. Although there was one big concession. Do you all remember what the big concession with X was?
No, I don't.
Story.
If you didn't know, come on. Okay, we're not low hanging fruit here. No, if you didn't install that game, it literally loaded like ass.
Yeah.
I know I installed that game like.
It's like what was like the max install? Wasn't it like 16 or 20 gigs? Like it was a huge amount of data, but because like the worlds were actively insane.
Yeah, it was. It was massive.
I of all of the games that I want to come to Switch that are ports, I want X the most. I want X the most because I love that game so much. I will say like I will defend X till I die on a hill, I guess. But I love X.
Do you all want to like kind of transition into talking about the like kind of Wii U stuff along with it? Just because like unless there were any like kind of like
opportunity to.
Yeah, well, just because like I was thinking about it, of like obviously the Wii U news has hit everybody with the TV shop closing and everything next year for it. But I think a large point of that as well is now going to be: do I need to get a Wii U to experience this? And it is one of those things of like it's still not an expensive game. Hilariously, the only thing that's really risen in terms of price for the market has been, I think. Yeah, just the systems. Like I'm looking up the price of it now, but like that, like I remember always seeing copies of Xenoblade Chronicles X in my Walmart's like clearance section, just like all the time. Also, anyone watching live, you're now officially cursed. I have been working this entire podcast diligently to create my newest masterpiece. I'll send it in the Discord chat for all of you. But I've created our new cursed character. His name is Nex. It's Noah with Rex's costume.
Oh, that's right.
Oh no! No! I don't know.
That is something, all right.
No.
All right, next, let's see what you can do. Show us a thing or three.
I'm gonna put this up on stream for everybody.
How about that next drip?
No.
So, yeah, but besides the curseness that is Nex, oh no, that will not be my new profile picture, Gigangus. What was it? But yeah, so the whole thing with X is, I think anything, and I hate like the whole hostage situation for games, but it is a real thing that it definitely does happen. I think considering how well 1 has sold, also it's important to remember 2 sold extremely
this
well.
is something.
I am
with
currently making sure it's cropped correctly just to be seen on my stream in all its
Thank
glory.
you.
I literally just put it up on my screen for my
So,
stream.
like,
as well.
just to like put into perspective, 2 sold over 1 million, which is actually beyond what they expected it to do. Because remember, no one in the Switch launch year really thought the Switch was going to blow up as much as it did. 1 was a slower burn, but has eventually sold over 1 million copies, a definitive edition that is. Torna numbers are obviously a little bit muddier since it's really DLC at the end of the day, even though it did get a physical.
And it did get a physical release, actually.
Yeah, but like the way Nintendo like would chart that, they would still just kind of count that as Xenoblade Chronicle 2 sales at the end of the day. My thing with this is like, I would have personally liked a port of X before 3 just for preservation reasons, but I don't think Chronicles 3 coming out means it's not happening. My hope is that Nintendo is kind of viewing this as them getting everything out, and then maybe as like a final like Switch release to like bring that up, because like we're really down to those last couple of meaningful Wii U exclusives, and like I'm sorry Nintendo Land, I don't think you're gonna get brought to the Switch. But like
Nintendo Land's too baked in with the Wii U gamepad. I don't think it. I don't unless they like.
I absolutely loved the game.
Oh, that's a great, like, seriously, Nintendo Land is, like, one of the greatest, like, Wii U exclusives out there. Like, it's a super fun game, but, like, that's just, like, not going to make that transition. Like, it would be very, very...
No.
It would
You'd
put,
have
like,
to
way
have,
too
like,
much time.
You'd have to overhaul
Switches.
so many games.
Well, you'd have to have, like, I feel like you just have to have 2 systems, one connected to a TV and one character playing on it. But, like, how do you do the camera for, you know...
But I mean, like, if you were to just do it with just a singular Switch, you would have to overhaul... Not like Xenoblade X, the whole thing is they'd have to overhaul the whole map system, which would be
would just be
tricky.
A menu, and it would be annoying.
Mm-hmm. But like with Nintendo Land, like multiple games are like those would need massive overhauls. Like a map is one thing. This is like this is like essentially the entire game.
Also, to quick correction, Tobermax in the chat says, was Torna a box with a code in it? Get this. This was like the least Nintendo thing they ever did. Torna was a physical copy of Torna on the cart, which you could just play, and it came with the season pass that then you could just download onto your normal version of the game. Like, it was like, hey, here's 2 season passes for the price of 1. And it was the most... hence why it's like, I think Torna is actually like probably the most expensive Xenoblade game out of the 3, if we're including 1, 2, and X.
Yeah.
Because like they did not print a lot of those out there. No, so
someone in my chat
one of the
said,
things I
never
was also
forget
thinking
Devil's
about.
Third.
Oh well, yeah. Well, Devil's
I don't know
Third.
what that has to do with anything, unless it's the Wii U.
Well, it is technically an exclusive, although the PC port did get canned. So I think crazier things would. I think, you know what? Devil's Third will be this. Give it 10 more years, Devolver Digital will get the rights to it, and they'll release it like Metal Wolf Chaos. Like, that's the only way.
Can I expect the same with
that'll
Stellar Glow?
Probably not.
Devolver's probably not still a Glow cool enough, but I think the funniest thing about it is just, I don't even know if this is like hyperbolic to say, because like I do like the Wii U a lot, and I actually really, really love Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I think it's safe to say, not like there was a lot of competition, but like I legitimately think Xenoblade Chronicles X is like the best RPG on the system. Again, not a lot of competition, but it is one of those things of like, if they were willing to put out Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I don't see any reason why they would not release this.
Yeah, like there's still a part of me that's like upset that they ported TMS before they ported X.
Yeah.
Just purely because it's like, why this one when you could have done X? Which, like, obviously that's not fair to say. But
it's not fair to say, but at the same time,
I mean,
like,
at the same time,
I feel like there is a difference between these 2 games, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the main attractor was the idea that it's like Fire Emblem sells, right?
Fire Emblem sells.
But at the same time,
we have the new SMT coming
also
up.
SMT and Persona 5.
True. That does make sense. It's good for
There's a whole bunch
promotion.
of reasons as to why you would think like, oh, like Sharp FE so like would be ported over X, but like just I guess as people who have played X and really love the game, it's just like we understand just how crazy good the game, like, even if there are people that hate it, right? It is a good.
It is really
game.
unfortunate it's not on the Switch right now, pretty much.
It's pretty much right. Like it's one of those games where it's just like this. At the very least, I think I am hoping that I guess we had I suppose this trend of, I don't know if it's a trend because it's only two, where it's just like we had two released in 2017, and then we had Future Connected, or the definitive edition for one come after, like a year or two after, right? I'm hoping that 3 comes out, and then a year or two after we get the port of X. That would be fantastic.
Which
just to have everything on off the Wii U and onto the Switch would be utterly amazing, right?
I think we need to do this because we all have problems. I think this would be absolutely hilarious. Who would like to play? Will it get ported or not to Switch? Because I'm looking at the list and I thought it was more cut and dry, but there are some weird ones that I'm like, oh my god!
Well, again, like a lot of the games that haven't been ported over, I believe, are the result of it's just not compatible.
I mean, Star Fox Zero is something that could be ported over. It's very
Star Fox Zero could definitely be fixed, although unfortunately it's not a games as service, so clearly Platinum won't touch it. But a weird one that like I think is a huge kind of elephant in the room, that it's like, boy, it's weird that, like, if I'm Nintendo, I'm gonna be honest, I would not port X before these two. It is very weird they have not ported Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Like, let's be honest. If we're the Nintendo execs, weird JRPG or the best Zeldas of all time.
I would port those before literally almost every other Wii U port they've done. Like,
I'm surprised they haven't just been ported yet, because especially with the Wolf Link amiibo, it kind of needs Twilight Princess to function.
Now, I will give you a thing that I think that's going to happen, right? Because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is coming out in September, and I just personally believe that Breath of the Wild 3 is not coming out this year, right? I think it's coming out early next year. 2,
He's right.
whatever.
He's right. Don't correct him. He's correct. It's not coming out this year.
I mean, technically, I am correct. Like, it's not coming out this year. There's no chance Breath of the Wild 3 is coming out, let alone Breath of the Wild 2. I don't believe Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year. I want to say it's early next year or holiday next year. I don't think it would be holiday
4
next
is probably
year.
going to come out this year.
And Breath of the Wild 5.5.
But my idea is basically just, if I were Nintendo, the way that I would handle this is, right, E3 time comes around. I know they don't do E3 or whatever, but they do have the big Nintendo Direct that is their E3 presentation, more or less, right around that same time. They hype up Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or whatever, but then their holiday release title, if they're not going to have like a Super Mario Odyssey or something like that, would be to throw down on the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess ports.
What about Bayo 3, though?
Is Bayo 3 coming out this year?
I thought it was confirmed.
It is 2022. The release date is 2022.
I would say Bayo could also be like a summer game, depending on how done it is.
They would have said Bayo would be September,
but they would have said it, I think, right?
I would have said Bayo would be September, but now I'm thinking like October, which is when Bayo 2 released.
Well,
that
actually,
makes sense.
Bayo 2 was September. It was very late though, but it was close to that.
I thought the September release that year was Hyrule Warriors. I guess they released one at the beginning and one at the end.
Yeah, that was a stacked year for B. I'll get the exact one. But no, like, what's funny is, like, you look at the other list, and it's like, obviously stuff like Tank, Devil's Third, and like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, like those are.
Bro, where is my Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival on Switch? I bought
all those 5 Below Amiibo for a reason, damn it. But like the thing about it though is, like, I think once you get Zelda out of the equation, because honestly, like, if you just double packed those, oh god, but that's the thing. Like, honestly,
I don't think they're even going to. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, like honestly, like they could just sell them both for 50 or 60, and it would still sell like gangbusters. But yeah,
would like.
the thing about it though is like those I think I would honestly even believe those come out this year as a like, hey, if Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't make it this year, we're gonna strip. Because like, think about it, there's a reason they didn't release more Zelda games last year on the actual anniversary. Because they were like, we are not close to this game releasing, so let's just put out a Game and Watch, Skyward Sword, and an Amiibo, and hope nobody notices. And so I think if they just stretch this thing out to become the next year of Luigi, and then just put a bunch of Wii U ports, honestly, who's gonna complain? Because it's like, oh, cool. Wind Waker HD is awesome. Twilight Princess HD, that's a great port. Like that's something that would totally hold them over in terms of needing a traditional Zelda game in it. Like let's be honest, because we didn't even really talk about the Direct because that's like its own whole topic. This is not a year that needs a lot of big Nintendo things because it already has a huge amount of Nintendo things.
That is true. It is going to be like a pretty stacked year.
I'm just going off the top of my head.
Going in before the Direct that this was going to be 2017 Part 2, where it was going to be Xenoblade, Mario, and Zelda.
I mean, if you think about
Mario was like the more unconfirmed of everything. But
there is still a chance we get that. It's just, it's not how you think. Obviously, Xenoblade is Xenoblade, but Mario in the form of Mario Kart DLC, that might as well just be another game. Like that's big enough that that's another game. Zelda, if you just get Zelda ports, that's still totally fine. Like I think they're gonna like Kirby. They're playing off Splatoon 3. Wii Sports, Nintendo Switch Sports. I will always mix that up.
It's still gonna be Wii Sports in my mind, no matter what.
Yeah, so but it's like I don't know, like for all of you, like I view this as like this is finally the year that obviously we're also in February, so this could totally blow up in my face. But like this to me feels like the year that is finally going to live up to 2017 because no other release year has ever peaked that. Like, there have been years that had amazing games, but, like, literally, something about 2017, they lined up perfectly. Literally, every month, there was a Switch exclusive published by Nintendo, and unless you were talking about May, where they only released Ultra Street Fighter Final Warriors Edition 2, which was, like, one of the stupidest releases they ever did, but whatever, Nintendo's Nintendo. Like, they had banger releases, and again, going back to other releases I'm forgetting, they had Xenoblade, they had Fire Emblem Warriors. This year's got Fire Emblem Warriors. Like, they've pretty much got something every month, if not multiple things. Like, even looking at June, like, June's already got, like, 2 big releases. And, like, also, we could also, you know what? I was going to say, because every year there's a Pokemon game. I think because Arceus was January, that's probably going to be this year's Pokemon game. Like, I think they'd be pretty greedy to try and do more. If anything, maybe it'd be like Pokemon DLC. But like even then, like they literally started this year with the best Pokemon game they have made in like over 2 decades. Like they clearly were going into this year with like, hey, this is a big deal for us year energy.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. So okay, let's
does anyone want to make a bet about if we can do 2 bets? Well, no, because we all want it. So there's no one. Is anyone here think, even though we all want it, does anyone here think that there's not a chance in hell X gets ported to the Switch? Because I'm like, I just can't imagine.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Okay. So my question is, let's do bets
doubt. I think it's just like an 85 to 90% chance it happens. It's just a matter of when.
So then let's put on our betting caps here. Let's end this on a hopefully high note and not curb your enthusiasm moment. Let's go in alphabetical order. What month and year? You can be crazy if you want to throw a year in there, but like, what month do you think Nintendo will release Xenoblade X on Switch on?
I would say. Okay, so I'm gonna say at earliest 2023. They want to give Xenoblade 3 time to, absorb all the hype and stuff. So I would say around August is when they would announce it. That August 2023 is when they announce it, and then I can see it coming out in October or November 2023.
I'm gonna say it'll get announced in 2023, probably. Let's go September Direct, because that's when the Xenoblade DE was announced. And then I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna put it in the fall because it would be a re-release, and they don't really do re-releases around then. They try and get the big releases then. I'm gonna say it's gonna be either August or April, somewhere in the first half of 2024.
I was actually gonna say pretty much, like announcement in late 2023, and then like release in early 2024, if not, maybe even like just like push those dates back a year even still, so it's like announced in 2024, release in 2024 or 2025.
Ringo, I'm glad that I'm not like I was like, am I gonna be like the farthest out here? Because like I want it, but there's something that I'm amazed no one's really brought up here.
Definitive Edition was released in May of 2020, but it was announced in 2019, I believe. Right?
It was
September 2019.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I've been holding in my back pocket of this is why I think Xenoblade X is a long ways off, but I think it'll be announced sooner than people think. I have no doubt in my mind that they will have a season pass for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I am 100% certain that they will have a
fair.
if not a DLC, a expansion at the very least. Because like let's be honest, the only thing that actually was substantial from that season pass was Torna. Like no one ever really talks about the other DLC from 2. So there will be an expansion to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, maybe like an epilogue piece or something. Like some piece of expansion form content. I'm not sure if it'd get a full-on retail release or whatever. But that will come out in 2023. But again, kind of going into it, the September 2023 Direct is where X gets announced. So I'm thinking the expansion comes out around summer or so, or maybe like September. And then to lead into the hype or kind of play into the final expansion DLC coming out, then they announce X coming to Switch. I would say optimistically May, realistically probably like a June, July. Like throw that in the summer, because again, it's not a tentpole fall game, but like X releasing in 2024 in the summer, I could 100% believe it. And honestly, this is gonna sound like a cop out. If there is a Switch successor, that's a great launch game, because guess what? It's huge. It definitely could use the extra horsepower that like the Switch definitely isn't gonna really help it. Like, if you wanted something that is still a very technically impressive game visually, that would be a pretty hell of a good, like, Switch successor launch game.
Yeah. So, let me, I guess, ask this and also kind of steer this into conversation back to 3, right? So, one of the things that I find absolutely fantastic about X, and just again, it's a staple of the series as well. It's huge, amazing open environments, right? The fact that they are so more or less the idea that if you can see it, you can go there, right? I think X took this to the extreme with the Skells to a game like no other, right? At least in the series. What is your hopes for the exploration of Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Do you want it to play like 1? Do you want the field skills from 2? Did you like the skells and the robots and stuff like that from X? Let's kind of gear this towards like what are you guys hoping for? What are you expecting from this game from 3? Let's start with Alto.
What I am expecting in 3, that's... Okay, so, you know how they pretty much confirm this is a fusion of the two worlds, right?
Yeah.
I am fully expecting, in terms of combat, a fusion between the two combat styles. Somehow, in some way, they're gonna make it work, too.
Yeah.
And then for the story... So this is gonna be a bit out there, but I personally believe the story is going to be more so about themes of balance, remembrance, forgiveness, because Xenoblade 1 story was about breaking away from the cycle that Zanza set up. Xenoblade 2 was about a lot of things, but I think in my personal opinion, it was most about at least from a god's perspective, Pyra, Mithra, Malos, Klaus, it's letting their, how to put this, I apologize, it's letting their fates not be tied to what they think they should do, but what they can do. For example, Klaus, in his final moments, he did not get consumed by despair. Instead, he gave the world another chance to find this new Elysium, pretty much. Pyra and Mithra learned that it's okay for them to live. Malos learned that despite all the pain he went through, he was still his own person. So it's sort of awakening to yourself. So I think this game is going to be accepting how each other view in how Xenoblade 1 world and Xenoblade 2 world view each other, and then slowly forgiving the crimes they committed upon each other, and coming together to form the world Klaus really wanted to make. A world where people could be happy and true. And that's, I apologize if it sounded a bit weird. It was hard to keep my thoughts.
Yeah, no, it was fine. Just on a quick thing, I remember, so as I mentioned when I was playing through 2 recently, so like I went through 1 and I went through 2 back to back more or less when I was playing it when Definitive Edition came out, because I wanted to play the game again, but I also wanted to introduce my friend into the series, and so we played through all of 1 and then we played 2 right after. We didn't finish Torn of the Golden Country because he just to be honest, he didn't like 2, and like I'm not a huge fan of 2 either. One of the things that he really didn't like actually was the ending, the fact that Klaus was in 2 at all.
What?
Yeah, he didn't like that, and the reason he gave was just like the idea that like what made Klaus and I guess as a result Xanda so interesting was just the idea that it was this dude who was so obsessed with becoming a god, right? That he literally transformed an entire universe, right? As far as I remember, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've even played the Definitive Edition.
I believe me and Mac talk about this exact thing one time before, and how at first he thought... what did you exactly think at first about Klaus, Mac? Because I can't exactly remember
So, initially, when I first played Xenoblade 2, I misinterpreted what it was doing. I thought what it was doing is it was trying to be like, oh no, Klaus, he was just trying to help and he screwed up, and all of that, and he was never actually doing the stuff that he was doing as we saw it in Xenoblade 1's version of events. He wasn't doing that. He was trying to help. But then on like rewatching and just like thinking about it more, no, I personally believe I see it as like, no, he's still trying to play God. He's just using these people as an excuse. I don't think he's I don't think he's actually trying to help. He's just using it more as an excuse to play God, which would which naturally leads into the version of Klaus where he sees that, oh, I succeeded, and then he becomes Zanza, and then the other one where he's like, oh my god,
what have I done?
I ruined everything.
Yeah.
So I'm much more. I initially saw it that way, but as time has gone on, it's like, no,
maybe
I just misinterpreted
maybe I have
it.
to revisit how they portray Klaus in 2.
The way
Because I was fine with him. Like it was interesting to me because I was just like, oh, okay, we got a different person, we got a different personality. This is like a different side of Klaus, but it was still, more or less you could understand what he was doing and kind of like the things that he was doing. But my friend said that he just didn't enjoy him for the idea that like the fact that Klaus was in 2 at all takes away from Zanza, in the idea that it's like how much of Zanza is still Klaus, right? If half of him is in 2 or something, I'd have to talk with him again and really figure out this conversation. But
I have one last thing to say.
Yep.
I have one last thing to say, and then I actually got to get going.
I think we're almost at the 2-hour point, so I figure we can give our last like 2 opinions and then wrap up.
Well, what I was gonna say is, I think I've seen a lot of people who jumped on board with 2 and then try and talk about 1 without actually having played 1. A lot of that's kind of gone away now that DE is out, but back before DE, a lot of people tried to talk about 1 having only
wild time,
experienced
dude.
2.
Isn't that the amount of there were more people who played 2 before 1?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But I think one of the dumbest things I ever read was someone was like, I think what happened is his emotions were sent and split amongst the 2 universes.
No.
So all of his emotions that were like everything about him that was like, you know, his god complex, that went over to Xenoblade 1 universe, and then his like guilty half stayed in the Xenoblade 2. It's like, why would they split why would the personality, I mean, obviously there's a theme of split personalities in Xeno. It's a very much a recurring trend. But it's like, why would they do it like that? Especially if it's like, no, that was just really stupid.
The way I always saw it was Klaus was Zanza. If Zanza knew he fucked up, like he saw the aftermath of the world he was in and was like, oh fuck, I played God and this is what happened.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. The architect is Klaus, if having seen what he destroyed, and Zanza is Klaus not seeing what he destroyed, only what he created.
Exactly. It's a very nice sort of balance of the two. I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I know we're about to end it, but I gotta go.
Farewell,
Where
Mac.
can we find you, Mac?
You can find me at youtube.com/c/MaccaSMT.
Link in the
When
description
put out-
can we get your review
I'm
on
putting in
Monarch,
the
Mac?
thing right there. Go check out Macca. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah. You can also check me out on basically everything else. It's JBO Macca. But yeah, I'm gone. My throat still kind of hurts. I'm probably gonna go take something for that and then go do my thing.
Yeah.
Bye, people.
Bye bye.
Well, that seems like a great time for me to say my very short and boring answer, because we were mostly talking about Traverse, but I enjoyed listening to everything for it. My like weird, like super big highlight in the trailer, talking about kind of like the world and exploring it. I was so glad to see grinding on a rail. Like,
oh yeah, I saw that.
Little things like that of just being like, please, like obviously I'm not expecting this to turn into Breath of the Wild, but it's like any more amount of interactivity would be just so needed, and I'm like, please.
Let me ask this then. I know we talked a little bit, or rather, I asked the question. No one really answered it, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to. So I'll bring it up maybe next time. Field skills. Do you want them to return?
No.
I would like something different.
I thought they were an interesting concept. I think that if they were done right, like maybe if it was that you have to like if we're going off the idea that like it's a duology of or deuteragonist, if there's 2 protagonists, right? That like some party members from one party have the skills to do certain things, and then some of the others like from the other side have them. So you're like, as you're exploring maybe the same area with the same people, that you have to go about traversing differently as these people because of the way that like you just don't have the same field skills because you're in like with a different party composition, if that makes sense, right? Like if you have like 3 characters with the Minato guy, and like you can like climb up trees and rail grind and stuff, but like if you're with the Blade Lady, you can like maybe like go through tunnels or like dig underground, or you know, things like that. Like that, like the way I hope that the way that the 2 interact with the world is different. If we were playing, if it is a separate if we're playing as the 2 characters and swapping between them, I hope that it also like influences the way that you traverse the world too, right? In some way.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the field skill concept. The execution
was bad.
not so much.
They could have done a lot more, and really, if they do expand on the idea of field skills, I really do look forward to that, and I hope that they do it in a way where it's very good and not as pace breaking.
Yeah, I actually thought, like, on my original playthrough, I stopped stopped playing 2 around like chapter 7. I'm not sure. Right after, like, when we were in Genbu, I stopped in that because of field skills. Like, I just stopped because of gotcha. I stopped because of field skills, and like that was a big, like, oh, I don't know about this. So I really hope they fix it I really hope they address it, but I don't necessarily want it to go away. I think it can be fixed into something fantastic.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Like,
I don't want that. Like, I know
they
it gets a
change
lot of
it.
hate. I know it gets a lot of hate for the way it breaks the pace, and like I wouldn't be surprised if it goes away, but I think that it shouldn't, because it can be improved, and again, even if it's something simple like this character can do this thing, this character can do this thing, but they're not going to be on the same team at the same time all the ways until, like, later in the game. Like, if you're switching between the two protagonists, you get different ways to traverse the world, and then, like, once you form up, then you can fully explore everywhere at all times because you have all of the party members that can do all the things. Right. But just no more gotcha.
How about
Just no
actual
more
credit
gotcha.
cards required? Doesn't that sound fun,
No.
everybody?
Please, no.
Well, man, ending it on gotcha, that sounds like a heck of a way to end a 2-hour
first
plus
episode.
marathon. Yeah, and best part, everybody, it's 2 hours for you. It was 3 hours for us. So really, this is just the marathon cast.
It was 3 hours for Ringo because I started the stream way too early.
the dedicated streamers. Thanks
God,
everyone actually
it was
listening to this
it was
live and not
something.
making like 4 people.
Yeah,
I'm currently
it
streaming
was-
only to 1, apparently. But that twist guy, I hope they enjoyed it. Or maybe they're a woman, I don't know.
We'll never know.
them-
Find
them-
out
they
on the
all
next
the
episode of
peoples.
Dragon Ball Z. We're getting metal.
And then it was that point the Dragon Ball announcer realized he didn't tell everyone where they could find each other. But yeah, you guys should
you'll
tell
know.
people where they can find you.
All right.
You want to go first,
You
Ringo?
go first, Alto. You
right.
go first.
I don't have a custom URL, so just look up on youtube.com Conductor Alto. I should show up. I'm the only person that I know of that is named this, so hopefully y'all can find me. And I will be making more videos soon. I really just want to capture card so I can record footage. That's all.
That would be nice. Real quick. Usually when I end my stream, I go raid someone else, and I need one of you to pick a number between 1 and 4.
27.
4, you said?
Yeah, stick with the.
All right,
stick
cool.
with the
Thank
name.
you. Fair enough. So that's the case. That just chooses who I'm rating. So thank you. With that, I will sign off. My name has been Ringo Ashburn. You can catch me over on pretty much Twitter or Twitch. I stream on Twitch. I'm also active on Twitter. Ringo Ashburn, RingoAshburne. I play a lot of stuff. I'm a lot of JRPG stuff. Tales of Banjo-Kazooie. That's a platformer though, and Pokemon and stuff.
The best
But,
RPG of all time, Banjo-Kazooie.
I know,
Nuts and
right?
Bolts.
Banjo-Kazooie, right? So yeah, you can catch me over there. Pretty much stream. I'm finally back into a regular streaming schedule, so I'm playing a lot of stuff. So you guys can catch me over there. But that will be me signing off. Thank you so much for having me here. I really do appreciate you guys letting me on this podcast. It was a ton of fun, and I hope to do this again
Well, hopefully we'll do it again
relatively
next
soon.
month.
next month. All right.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. I'm gonna be boring and because I'm here. I need to get out of here. If you're still listening, that means you're on the channel. If you're not hitting that red subscribe button, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, go sub to Spencer.
Go
Do it.
sub to Spencer
Cool.
Presley, link in the description below.
Alto, you failed tremendously, though. You did not mention the Stellar Glow Discord, so it will not be growing tonight unless you want to say it before the show actually.
I actually do. If you are a fan of Stella Glow and you are looking for more community members to talk to, you can go visit the Stella Glow Discord. We are a nice community that really just wants to have fun and promote the game to more people.
We just want to see more games with that cute Image Pooch logo.
Alrighty, everybody, take care. This will be Ringo signing out.
And I'll be Conductor Alto, and I'm signing out as well. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye. And this is Spencer looking at the amount of time I've spent in this room. Sad because Atlas decided to drop news at 10 p.m. at night. And there's no actual news, but it's enough that like I would do another stream speculating on it. But I'm also like, this is my fucking. I gotta go to bed. I don't want to stay up and theorize about a mobile port. I'm not about that life. So, yeah, just all the goodbyes.
See ya.
Because it's like, is this my life? Do I want to stay up at 11 o'clock at night to talk about a Countdown mobile website? Probably not. Oh, but yeah, man, this was fun. It was good getting to talk to you guys.